Hello everyone, this is Santiago Vasquez.
And I'm Martin Cervantes.
And welcome to the DOTTE POD.
Where communication
Truly
matters.
Okay? We've been saying this for quite a while.
And we're still training, we're still, not good at it. So it's a learning process every day.
Look at me, I'm looking cool all the time.
Well, yeah, you're a professional.
There we go. So without the skills of communication, we have conflict. Communication is just the art of diplomacy. And that's what we're looking for here in this channel. Not just to educate, but hopefully to reach out a higher level of consciousness and civilization, hopefully, through the art of talking to each other.
And remember, our goal here is to inform Wyandotte County, KCK, of the good things happening here, the positive things that are happening, the changes that are happening here. We know that Vasquez is a professional at this. So, we're learning. He's
That's enough.
He's Mr. Camera.
We're wasting time,
Mr. Hollywood here in
We're
KCK.
wasting time.
So,
today we have a very, like normally, but today is a very special day.
more special.
More
than other
special.
days.
Yes, in particular since I happen to be a retired police officer with the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department. And today we have with us...
Well, and I'm actually speaking with my son's boss.
Oh, that's
In
correct.
case we forgot that
That's
my
good.
son is a KCK police officer. So, yes, we are honored to have, and we thank you for your time, Chief Oakman here. KCK, welcome, and
Welcome.
newly
Welcome to
elected
the
also,
DOTTE POD.
nominated here. You've been on the job here for a few months, so you're new to our community. Although you are from Wyandotte County, but this is a whole different process that you're dealing with now. So welcome to the DOTTE
Welcome
POD.
to the DOTTE POD.
Thank you.
Now, Chief, we like to start our little program by asking our guests to tell us a little bit about their cultural background, their ethnicity, and where they grew up. So if you can tell our audience who you are in regards to your cultural background.
All right. Well, I'm Karl Oakman, the new chief of Kansas City, Kansas. I was born and raised in Kansas City, Kansas. Grew up in Argentine. Went to Stanley Elementary School and Rosedale Middle School, and graduated from Harmon High School.
Oh, wow.
So when you talk about really your cultural diversity, anyone that's familiar with Harmon and Argentine, even back in the 70s and 80s when I grew up, very diverse community, Hispanic, white, black, Vietnamese was all in my school. It was equally represented. So I tell you, funny thing, when you talk about cultural diversity, I didn't really realize that people of different ethnicities didn't get along till I moved to Kansas City, Missouri. Because I didn't grow up in that. So, and growing up in, Argentine, I used to always spend a lot of time down there on Strong, TG&Y, Safeway, all that.
Hanging around with Kevin Terry.
Kevin Terry, one of my high school buddies.
Rest in peace.
So growing up, it wasn't peachy.
Yes, I
but
understand.
we didn't know better. One thing we all had in common was we all was poor, but we didn't know we didn't have any money till we left our neighborhood.
So were you a basketball player, a football player, baseball player for Harmon?
Well, actually, I was a track runner and
Oh, wow.
football player. I used to be about 30 pounds lighter, so I was an all-conference wide receiver, all KCKL, all Kansas. Remember the Kansas newspaper? All state. So
that is awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty. But going back,
I gotta stop you for a
go
second.
ahead.
You gotta be careful with this guy right here. He is a Raiders lover.
Oh.
And I'm proud. I love my team. I love football.
Well, I can work with them. I can get along with all types of people.
That's right, communication.
Even Raiders fans. I haven't missed a Chiefs game, whether on the radio, television, or in person, since I was 10 years old.
I read that about you.
Oh,
Yes,
wow,
yes,
that's
yes.
amazing.
But you know what? I am a football fan. I'm not a fanatic. Win or lose, my life goes on. The team doesn't even know that I exist. So for me to be mad and negative after a game, no, that will never happen.
You're not a typical Raiders fan.
No, because I love my life more than a football game.
I'm sorry, before I interrupt you.
Yeah, so I was going back talking about my childhood really kind of shaped me as a person. Losing my father when I was 6, and then my mother when I was 11.
Oh, wow.
So it was difficult at the time.
Yes.
But it taught me a lot of valuable things, just with dealing with people and really getting that support from my community. You know, whether it's teachers, coaches, even a police officer at an early age. So it was really important, and that would help shape me.
Now, losing your parents at such early age, who impacted your life the most? Who was kind of like somebody that you looked up and say, you know, this is the person that is guiding me, helping me out to make sure that I follow the right path instead of deviating towards something that was more negative and could have, in a negative way, impact your life? Anybody along the path that you followed that helped you out, extended or gave you a helping hand?
Well, I'll tell you one interesting thing. My mother had 6 brothers. So I had 6 uncles that kind of helped me during different situations. And then my older sister, you know, when I look back on it, when my mother died, my sister was 17, and she inherited me, who was 11. My other brother, who was about, I think he would have been about 16, and then my sister was 15. So she hadn't even graduated high school yet.
So she becomes the mother figure.
Yeah, my mother died in February, like 4 days after my birthday, and then my sister graduated high school that May. So it was a lot of people.
Let me ask you something, maybe a little personal. How do you deal with that at the time? You know, when we're young, a lot of times we turn to anger, rebellion, and we go against society because we don't know how to deal with death. Is that something that, you know, how do you deal with it? And I ask this because I think a lot of our youth might take some advice from you and some pointers like, hey, you know, I'm going through all this, so I can see what Chief Oakman did. I can do that myself.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, even my father, that I remember, we used to always, even as a little boy, we used to always spend time with me. We were just me and him. We would do things like, you know, split a banana split, just him and I as a little kid. And I remember that. And I remember my mother would always tell me, regardless of your circumstances, don't ever lose hope. Because when you lose hope, she said, you're done. So you can always understand, and I know it's easier said than done, but things can always get better when you don't lose that hope. And you're gonna have to, there's gonna be some work involved.
Yes.
But you're gonna have to always understand the way you come in the world does not have to be the way you leave it.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I work with our youth here in KCK very closely. So, to me, you know, by learning from you right now, I think, you know, we can make a bigger impact in their lives. You know, a lot of people don't understand that most of the time they need someone that they just can talk to without telling them what to do. Someone that will be willing to take their time, his or her time, just to listen to them.
Yeah, it's always important, and I have been lucky in my lifetime. Even now, I've been married to my wife for 28 years.
Nice.
Well,
And,
congratulations.
And Riddell, who I always bounce things off because she always tells me what I need to know, not what I want to know.
Yes.
And it's always been beneficial.
And she makes your favorite food, right?
She makes my favorite
The
food,
best
spaghetti and meatballs.
meatballs.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
none kidding.
Yes.
Yeah.
None kidding.
Yeah.
There you go. So now, Chief, what happens after high school? You graduate from Harmon High School, then what happens?
So I graduated from Harmon High School. Ended up going and playing football. Played at Northwest Missouri State.
Oh, great.
Went to Highland Community College first. I'll tell you a funny story. And when I look back on it, you know, when you're a kid. So I went on a recruiting visit at K-State. Well, at that time, believe it or not, no offense to KU and K-State, but at that time in football, when they would play each other, it was known as the toilet bowl.
The toilet bowl.
Neither team had won any game since the early 80s, and this is like 88.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
you often chose a junior college over going to K-State.
That's awesome.
One of you know, when you look back, not a bad decision in my life, but not the best decision because at that time Stan Parrish was the coach at K-State. So I decided not to go, and they brought in Bill Snyder that same year, and you know the rest is history.
Yeah,
The rest is
yeah.
So anyway,
history.
but I went to Highland for a year, and then transferred to Northwest Missouri State and played football at both places.
Okay, so what inspires you to become a law enforcement officer or a peace officer? But in particular, why a municipal police officer? Why?
Well, I think you can really make a big difference. And going back to my childhood, I remember in the neighborhood that I grew up off of Barber Court there, these were low-income housing. And this is like 1975, 1976. You know, there was a police officer that would always come in our neighborhood. And this officer, and you know, what I'm saying may shock some people in the world, but this was a white police officer in 1976 in this neighborhood in Barber Court. He would always get out of his car, take the time to come over and talk to his kids and make sure that, you know, hey, you guys staying out of trouble, don't run across the street. I mean, he would just take the time to talk to us. So here's a funny story, and I had mentioned this. So a couple weeks go past, and there's a guy up the street. Looking back and knowing all that I know he was into stuff he shouldn't have been into, but he would always give us candy and stuff when he sees us. Never forget, his name was Nick. So he had an older Lincoln, you know, with the kissing doors.
Oh.
So we're down in the corner playing in the dirt like we always did because the sidewalk was kind of washed away, and we used to always play there. We hear this, pow, pow. We look up, see this car roll off, and we see Nick laying there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So he was okay. He got shot in the buttocks with a shotgun.
That's the greatest
so,
story.
So we see the ambulance come, and they're wheeling Nick off. So the detectives come out, and they're like, "Hey, did you kids see anything?" And we're like, you know, that's that. Not really derogatory, but like, you kids, you don't know anything. Whatever, I'm asking you because I have to. And we were like, and so then the officer, who was our patrol officer.
Do you know his name?
I don't. I've been trying to find. I knew Bill was the name. We used to call him Bill. That's all I know. And so after he would come down, he came down and he said, "Hey, did you kids see what happened?" He couldn't stop us from talking. We told him the make, the model, the color, the direction, what the person looked like in the car. And that's just an example that even now, you know, 45 years later, how police and community relationships helps you solve crime and get
Yes.
If we
I agree.
create that
Yes,
relationship,
yes.
you know,
Yes.
we close the gap, you know, between the community and the police or any law enforcement agency. You know, because a lot of times, and you know, I think a lot of us can relate to this. I saw nothing, I know nothing.
Right.
Turn the other way. You
Yeah,
know?
and we gave them good information. We didn't get any money, but we got color. So that was
No,
just-
the patrol
Yeah,
officer,
yes,
the
yes.
patrol officer makes a big difference.
Yes, yes.
I mean, he's a foot soldier. He's right there one-on-one with the community. And if you come with a negative attitude, people are going to look at you, and then they stereotype everybody
Right,
else.
exactly.
That's the way it is.
Exactly.
You know, you and I, we have something in common. You were talking about meatballs, right? Spaghetti meatballs.
Mhm.
I was working at Italian Delight, which it was at the old Indian Springs.
Indian Springs, that's where I used to
And,
go all the time.
I'm actually related to them.
Oh, okay.
I'm a young immigrant, and at that time he was a sergeant, Joe Ward, who retired from here as a major, and he saw something in me. You know, here I am working there. I had a full-time job, part-time job there, and then trying to go to college, trying to get my degree. And he said, Santiago, listen, you're a hard-working kid. I'm married. I have 2 kids. I'm desperate. And he says, you should become a police officer. I looked at him and I said, no way I'm going to become a police officer. Because where I grew up in Venezuela, it was like, you want to be a police officer? And my mom used to scare me by telling me, if you don't stay in the schools, you're going to become a police officer. And you know, listen, I'm talking about, first of all, a third world country, for the love of God.
Right.
And somehow he convinced me. And I applied. And I got hired. And it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, so
Agree.
you decided to become a police officer.
Yes.
But you chose KCMO instead of KCK, the DOTTE.
Right.
Why?
Well, I can tell you, it wasn't my choice.
Oh, okay.
Not in a bad way.
Oh, okay, good.
So when I was coming out of college, KCMO was always up at our college recruiting and hiring, so I knew about that. But I knew that's what I wanted to do. So when I applied, KCK wasn't hiring. So it's not that they didn't hire me, they just weren't hiring at the time. So I went to KCMO, and rest is history.
And you rose to the ranks.
Yes.
And when you retired from KCMO, what was your rank, and what were some of the official, whether it was admin or being in patrol or investigation, some of the duties that you had?
Well, I'll tell you, when I came out of the academy, I patrolled. Some of you may know this area, but I worked overnights, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., and I patrolled 23rd Street to 35th Street, Wabash, over to Jackson.
Ooh.
At that time, it had one of the top zip codes in the United States of America for the most violent area in the country.
Yes.
And what
So you were thrown into the fire.
thrown into the fire. But I started at an early age in my career. I understood one thing: building relationships was the most important thing, not destroying them.
And how old were you? That's nice. That's a nice quote.
22.
22. Oh,
22.
God, just a
22.
kid.
And I look at my son now. He's a police officer at Raytown. He's moving over to KCMO, but he's 21 now.
Oh.
And you know, we have these discussions, and he always tells me, "Oh, Dad, you don't know. See, when you used to do it."
Yeah, you used to. Yeah. You are a dinosaur of that.
So yeah, KCMO, patrol officer, then became a detective in vice unit, homicide unit, drug enforcement unit. Then I became a sergeant over our hiring, recruiting, sex crimes unit. Then became a captain. As a captain, I went back to East Patrol where I started, and I was a captain there. Then went back to hiring, recruiting. Then kind of got stuck in the administrative stuff for about 6 years. You know, doing creating wellness unit, running HR, human resources, benefits, employees benefits, all the exciting stuff. So then I became major and got the opportunity to be the South Patrol Division commander, which for those of you who don't know, that's right there. That's the new station there off of, if you've been in Kansas City, Missouri, right there off 71 Highway in Bannister.
Yes.
So I had all the
Yeah.
southern area of the Kansas City, Missouri.
So retirement comes up. Are you ready for it? Are you thinking about it? Are you feeling it's taking over and asking yourself, do I want to retire? Do I want to continue on? What happens there?
Well, my plan for retirement was about at 30 years. I was looking at a few things, whether in the private sector, but really I've always paid attention to what was going on in KCK. That's my hometown. So it was just funny story. My wife and I was driving. We went out to the Legends because we would always go out there. Then we started driving around, and I was like, I really would like to retire, get me some space, get a little land, and Western Kansas is a perfect place for this. In KCK, I'd still be, near the city, but kind of
Away from everything.
Right. And that was like in October, November. And then I saw the opening come up for KCK. I was like, man, this is my opportunity to come back home and, whatever skills or knowledge or whatever I can give back to my community, I think I owe it to my community because they took care of a little boy who had no mother and father. So I saw this as an opportunity to give back.
Wow. Now, you're selected. They give you a contract. You become the new chief of police for the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department during a very difficult time in our nation, within the last probably 20 years. A very difficult time. And also a very controversial time in Kansas City, Kansas, within also the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department. Now you're saying to yourself, I am the new chief of police. How? I'm assuming this went through your head, like anybody else that just walks in. How can I make this police department a better place? A better place in the eyes of the community, sincerely, and also to elevate the morale of our officers.
Yeah, and I think that, first of all, it was a difficult time. And, I spent 10 straight days on the plaza. I was, as I retired, I was the deputy chief of patrol. So I was the overall incident commander for that whole big mess down there on the plaza. So that was different.
Yes.
But one thing, a lot of chiefs or heads of police departments always approach it the wrong way. And what I mean by that is you create all the community programs and go after it. But one thing you forget about the people who have to do these community programs. So it's a two-part process. One, you have to have programs that's going to engage the community, but the bigger issue is you have to put in value to the people internally that are doing the job.
Absolutely.
They have to know they're valued, they have to know that they're part of the community, and they have to know that their opinions matter. And then you bind the two together, and that's how you get success.
That's a great approach.
So you're here now in our community, KCK, that we love dearly. We love KCK. Although I'm not an original DOTTE, but this is home. I love my community. Are you bringing any ideas from KCMO into KCK that you can apply here? Or are you just seeing the whole scenario here and coming up with your own ideas and how to implement programs or better policing, a better relation with the community and the police?
Well, I think it's kind of like a recipe. You have a recipe wrote down, And when you actually start, creating the dish, you may have to add a little this here, adjust to, you got to adjust the taste.
Correct.
So, yeah, I got, 30 years at KCMO. I've learned a lot of things, how to do things right, how to do things wrong. So you take that and you look at what this department needs, what this department does well. And that's the other thing. You don't come in getting rid of stuff that's done well.
Yes.
You can always improve things, and there's some things you need to actually do. But that experience helps with actually. And one thing about myself is I've never been a big talker and don't do anything. If I say something, then I'm going to come up with a plan to make it happen. Yeah. And so with KCK, some of the things, and matter of fact, we've been working on this since I got it for about 6 months. We're on our Cold Case Squad. As we often saw in the media about cold cases and all that. But it wasn't as much as that. As the important thing was how you show, even as a police department, that you're part of the community, is being concerned with what the community is concerned about. And that was one of them. So, yeah, are we going to be able to solve all of our cold cases? No. But one thing I can guarantee you that by coming up with this squad, we're going to take a second look at all of them. So every family will get that closure.
Absolutely.
And they will get that peace of mind knowing that we're looking at these cases. So that's one, along with some other stuff like the Hispanic community liaison.
Yeah, we haven't had is.
Yeah.
We need to have a Hispanic.
Yeah. And his job mainly is really to work on that connection, because it's more than just when you talk about crime, but that's one of the issues there. But just some of your undocumented members, making them feel that they're a part of the community, and getting that relationship so they can start communicating, as you said at the beginning of the show, communication, communicating with us, so we're not allowing certain criminal elements to take advantage of those folks, because they know there's a void in that relationship with the police. So that's one of the main things. And then as different communities move in different neighborhoods, dealing with the neighbors so they understand this is how we live in a neighborhood in harmony with different cultures, and so, which KCK is known for that. So.
Now, are you dealing, I don't know if you can talk about this, hiring process? I know the police department is short. I don't know by how many, and I don't know if you can tell us how many officers are you short. It takes money to hire officers, and it takes money to train officers. And I always tell people, we talk about this, the budget of the police departments is this much. It's a zero. Enough money to hire, train, and hopefully provide annual training to police officers. It would be nice to have an endless budget to provide more training and more training and more training and more training. And how short are you right now at the present time?
Well, right now, we're allocated for 369 officers. Currently, when I last checked, we were around 315. But now, we're at 315 because we just had, November, December, when you usually have retirement. We have retirements. We didn't get hit as bad as we could have. So we're at 315. However, we have 8 that's out that just graduate the academy. So they're out in the training process. And then we had 16 that just started the academy about 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. And then we have another class of about 9 starting next week.
Oh wow, that's
January
fantastic.
13th. So, and of this 15, I think is really important. I mean, I'm sorry, 16.
16.
Yeah, very diverse class.
Nice.
We had, and when you break it down, we had, and here's the kicker of these 16. Of the 16, I believe 12 were either from KCK or lived in KCK.
Nice.
And the breakdown, we had four white males in that class, 4 Hispanic males, 4 black males, 3 white females, and 1 Hispanic female.
Oh, that's
It
very
Yes,
nice.
yes.
was very, very diverse.
Nice. Well,
And a lot of them, you know, they came to us really wanting to make a difference in their community, and that's really, that gets me excited when you get young people that want to go into policing for the right reasons.
Yes.
Is you know, our prior chief Ziegler, he made an effort in the efforts to hire minorities, qualified minorities, that is, and it was tough. It was tough. People were not applying. However, it's kind of like thinking about going to a college, for instance. A lot of people, when they go to college, they want to see people that represent the race, ethnicity, or cultural background. And I think maybe, you know, by having you are actually, I believe, the second African American and the second minority to run this police department. And I think it's an inspiration to others to see, oh wow, there is an African American. There is somebody that represents my culture, and not just if you're African American, but as a Hispanic or even a female, you go, wow, that is a minority running the police department. That inspires me. I believe that inspires people to apply for the police department. I honestly believe that because I've seen it with kids that are going to college and they go, man, I get there and none of the professors happen to represent my culture. You know, it's tough.
Yeah.
That plays a part on do I apply for the police department? I always want to be a police officer, but there is nobody representing me. You know, I think that's important. Of course, the person has to be qualified. Can you do the job? Of course. You know.
Well, and the person has to be willing and wanting to become a police
Of course,
officer.
of course.
Because you can go out on the streets to Argentine and or Central Avenue and ask all these Hispanics or Mexican Americans, hey, would you like to become a police officer? They might say, no, I don't want nothing to do with the police. So, you know, you can try all you want. The individual has
must be
to
willing.
want, you know, to be a part of this. Now, since you've been a police chief here, what has been the biggest obstacle or problem that you have dealt with here? Something that is like, oh my God, I wish I can do something different.
To make the place better.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because, and this is going to sound naive, but I haven't ran into any obstacles to make the place better.
Okay.
What I will tell you, I think is a problem is outside perception of this department. You know, I don't know what's happened in the past.
In the past.
I wasn't here. I was across the river.
And the perceptions, you mean perception from other law enforcement agencies?
No, not
Or the
other,
or community.
the community, the media, and like I said, I wasn't here, but you know, I can't, and I get how people feel, but policing is very fluid, and this may sound harsh or mean, but as a police chief, I can't be stuck in 1990. You know, we had 50 homicides this year.
Yes.
Last year.
That's the most in quite a while.
Yeah, no, not last year. We had 58.
58?
So that's not good either. But we've put some initiatives in place that we should see that number go down. And I have to be focused on what the citizens want now. Because I tell people it doesn't matter how many specialized units you have.
Correct.
You know, whether you got an airplane, helicopter, boat, whatever, say police on the side. At the end of the day, what our community cares about is when they call 911, they expect someone in uniform to show up in a police car with lights on top and listening to their problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. But I'm gonna tell you, I'm not naive. And like I tell everyone, we're setting expectations, not that they weren't here, that regardless, if there's misconduct, I will address it, I will deal with it, and we will move on. And even if we find something in the past that is something that we can address, we will address it.
Awesome.
And we
That
will
is
put,
good.
and we've already put things in place to ensure, like for instance, we're doing our shoot review where we look at
Yes.
all our non-fatal shootings, our fatal shootings, our homicides. We have all kind of people in the room. So we're looking at these cases from every possible angle to ensure not only that the detectives are held accountable and doing what they're supposed to do, but also that we're going in the right direction.
Correct.
From a fair and equal stance. And
Fair and impartial policing.
yes, and I do have to say this. I know because we read a lot of stuff in the media. We have Kansas City, Kansas. You have excellent detectives that are working. And I'll give you a quick example. The unfortunate homicide we had on Christmas Eve.
Yes.
Yes.
So we had detectives who got called out because they were off. It was Christmas Eve. And these detectives worked all through Christmas Eve, all day Christmas, Sunday, that whole weekend, away from their families because they were running down leads and investigating this homicide.
Well,
Good job.
good
to them.
job, detectives. Yes,
Good
yes.
job, good job.
And Chief, this is the reason why we're doing this. I was sitting down in my house a few months ago thinking, what can we do differently to bring this out to our community, to educate them, to let them know this is what's happening. So this came to my mind, is like, hey, we need to do this. I reached out to Vasquez and he agreed to do this. And this is the reason why we're doing this, because we want you guys, whoever is in charge of whatever agency, whatever group or anything, to let them know this is what we're doing. This is what's happening here. And now we don't have much time because we don't want the board people to do that.
We want to talk.
No, we have a
few
couple
points.
more
We have a few
things. Yes.
points.
Yes.
Especially
Now,
talking about.
Let's eliminate rumors because
Yeah.
rumors is just nothing but hearsay.
Okay.
Let's go to the facts or the apparent facts, right? Now, you are making some changes regarding EPD, East Patrol Division or Central Patrol Division, and Midtown. Can you talk about those changes that you're bringing on?
Yes, one thing that, as the chief of police, I have to make sure that we're using our resources effectively and efficiently. And so one of the things, we have four patrol stations, 2 patrol divisions, 4 patrol stations.
Can you explain to us?
Yes, right?
So that we don't know.
Not anymore, because we've changed it, but I'll talk about it. Before I got here, we had Midtown West Patrol. That was a patrol division. And we had East and South was a patrol division. So, actually, it's addition by subtraction.
Okay.
And now, keep in mind, East Patrol and South had one major
Correct.
over that. Midtown and West had one major over those stations. So what I did is created 3 patrol divisions. So now we no longer have the name Midtown. That turns into East Patrol. East Patrol, now we have East Patrol, South Patrol, and West Patrol. Now, there's a major now for East Patrol, there's a major for West Patrol, there's a major for South Patrol. East Patrol was currently in the basement of police headquarters. Terrible location for a patrol division, barriers for community engagement, now, if you have issues and you want to talk to the captain, the major, you can go right into that patrol division and talk to them. So now East Patrol is now where Midtown is.
Indian Springs.
47th.
Yes.
47th in
Now,
the state average.
we went from, with those, the way it was before, we had 20 patrol districts.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have 21 patrol districts. So we gained a patrol district. We gained a major that's over. So that major now, instead of a major being accountable for two areas, they're accountable for one. So they have more time now to attend community engagement, community events, and be accountable to the community. Also, what we did was we added a captain on every watch of those 3 stations. Prior to that, there was one captain that handled the watch on 2 of those stations. Better accountability, better span of control, and that always reduces the chances of officer misconduct when you got more supervision. So that was one part of it. And so that's part of why we kind of changed the makeup for it to be more efficient. And also when you talk about dispatch, which our dispatch is short, so I want to reach this out, say this to the community. If you're interested in a good paying job with benefits to take care of your family, think about dispatch. We have about 20 positions open for dispatch.
Wow.
But this also allowed us, because oftentimes we were short in dispatch, so you had to maintain four patrol division airs. Now with 3, we only have to maintain 3. So it's an advantage all around. Your patrol station, that building that was Midtown, is not going away. It will be occupied with basically 2 of the sectors from Midtown now encompasses East Patrol, and then the rest of Midtown encompasses West Patrol.
Yeah. See, and that takes us to rumors, because we heard that, Midtown was no longer gonna be there, so now we're hearing directly.
There we
from
go.
you.
This is the truth and nothing but the truth.
That's the truth.
Communication truly matters.
There we go.
And one thing when I look at making changes, I look at 2 things: how it affects the officers, how it affects the community. And if it's an advantage for both, then it's a no-brainer to do it. And one thing that you'll see in the next couple weeks is that Midtown station that's now East Patrol. I always thought when I'm on 635, I don't know that's a police station. So we're gonna have big block letters now
There we
from
go.
the highway that says KCKPD. So if someone's road rage, whatever, that's the closest police
So
station.
your East Patrol building will be just headquarters now.
Yes. And we'll still have a report desk here. We'll still have officers here to take reports where you can come in and do all that. So that doesn't change.
Now, for the first time in our city, we have something unique. This is unique. I mean, to me, it's like, wow, this is impressive. You have an African American district attorney. He was the one that broke that barrier. We have you as the chief of police, and now we have a new mayor who also has a background in
Law enforcement.
Mayor Tyrone Gardner. How is, if you can briefly tell us about your relationship with them? Have you already met with them, spoken to them?
Yeah, I know both of them. And I'll say this, and I'm sure Dupree doesn't mind me saying this. So this is a good story. Now, I can tell you in the past, I don't think those relationships have always been the best.
Correct. You're correct.
But from being in KCMO, I saw how when that relationship is not good, what can happen. So that was one of my priorities, to make sure. Because at the end of the day, if I don't have a good relationship with the DA, it doesn't affect me. It affects my people. And if my people are dealing with stuff in a negative light, I'm not doing my job. So real quick, when I met with Dupree, which I know Dupree, so I know he doesn't mind me saying this, I told him, and that he and I will have a great relationship if we remember two things. One, I remember he's the district attorney, and he remembers I'm the police chief.
Wow.
When I start trying to be the district attorney, that's when we have problems. And when he tries to be the police chief, that's when we have problems.
Very
And
well said.
we laughed about it and said, amen.
Yeah, yeah. It can be taken as a joke, but it's
Yeah,
the truth.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
And
That
have
old
you-
thing, that old saying, stay in your lane. Yeah. most
Yeah.
definitely.
So have you already met with a new mayor?
Yeah, I knew Tyrone from when he was,
When he was
here. I've known Tyrone for probably, since 2010.
Now, do you have an open door with your fellow officers and members of the community and the commissioners? If anybody reaches out to you and says, I would like to meet with you, Chief, is that
Yeah.
possible?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And when I say open door, when you're talking about your staff, that's where you gotta always be careful. But I do, and I hope my staff knows that if they got a question, we have something now, we put out suggestions, and I go to in-service training and they ask questions. And you know, an officer, I'll give you, I'm not gonna go into detail,
Correct.
but we were in one where an officer asked about changing something, which I never thought about it. Great idea, and by what this officer asked, and we implemented, 4 days later, what he had us implement and possibly saved a young kid's life.
Oh, wow.
By
Wow.
quicker response time. And this is something that an officer had. So I've always, throughout my career, opened myself up to take suggestions.
And
But,
then that
you know,
speaks volumes of you, the leadership that you bring to this department. That are you willing to work with your employees, basically, and willing to listen and understand. This is their point. This is what they want to do, and you taking on to that and saying, "Hey, let's do it." That speaks volumes of you.
and there's just one exception that I tell them.
No, Mr.
As long as you're not talking about UFOs, then I'll.
No, I know time is limited, but I would like to, unless Mr. C has another question. I would like
I
to
do have
conclude-
just one more thing.
Well, I would
but-
like to conclude, a couple of more questions on my part. Number one, for years, especially within the last couple of years, a civil commission, I guess for lack of a better word here, to possibly investigate, because Mr. Dupree had been pushing for this, and also the current mayor has spoken about this, about also investigating what could be unlawful behavior, what could be violation of civil rights in the parts of also police officers. Do you welcome that idea, or is it, no, we're going to continue with internal affairs to investigate officers?
Well, I think that if you look at, and like I said, you have to deal in facts and not emotion.
Correct.
And when you look at the internal affairs unit, what we investigate, they're very transparent.
Yes,
Very
they are.
very open to the community. So I don't really see any issues there. If we did see them, we will correct them and go in another direction. And when you talk about investigations, and you know, as we know, there's one going on. I think that the community, the commission, the mayor's office at the time, they actually understood, they listened, and that's why they brought in an outside person.
Correct.
So, like I said, even the Department of Justice, when you talk about current issues, I've been here for about 7 months, review policies, practices, procedures, and I haven't found anything currently that would give me alarm to the way this police department is operating
There we go.
and functioning.
There
Now,
we go.
now, the stuff in the past, we will cooperate to the
Absolutely.
fullest.
Absolutely.
But there's no need for internal DOJ investigation, because that's usually for current issues. And I have not seen anything that alarms me as the chief of police on the way this police department is functioning. In fact, you know, there is a lot of people on this department, and I would say the majority, that want to see change, that have welcomed me with open arms to help assist with that change, to make this police department one of the best departments in the metropolitan area. And what I always say to the community, give us a chance to make you proud of your police department.
Well, thank you. Yes, well said.
Now,
Very well
yes,
said.
and my last question is, how is your relationship with the FOP? Because you came from a place that does not have a union like the union of the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, correct?
Well, we had a
but it's not the bargaining union that we have right here.
right. It has, I would say, in KCMO, it wasn't always like that.
Yes.
The last 10 years, they became a bargaining union.
A bargaining union.
And as the patrol bureau commander over there, I had to constantly work with the union. I don't have any issues with the union. I think that the union should want the same thing that I want.
Yes.
And so far, I haven't seen anything that would suggest differently. We're not going to agree with everything, but that's why they're the union. I'm the police chief, but at the end of the day, we're going to work it out and do what's best for our members and the community. And I think even the union president understands that. And once I got here, I made sure that we had a monthly standing meeting. He's brought issues to me that we've done things wrong and we've corrected them, and that's what I want. If we're doing something that we shouldn't be doing, I want to hear it from whoever. But I'm sure he'll say the same thing, but I think the relationship's good. It's transparent, it's open, and we look forward to making the department better and the community better together, because you can't do anything separate.
Well,
you got to work together.
You don't know if you have a last question, and then
no,
it's
just a comment that I have for the chief. I've been working, my wife and I, in the community, and your community policing. Anytime we call and ask for any help, helping us deliver food and toys and baskets for our senior citizens, they've always been there. Always, they never hesitate to answer to that call. So shout out to community policing. Really, we appreciate you a lot. And not only them, but all the police officers that we have encountered and talked to. They've been more than just human. They've been real people, understanding and ready to help and answer any questions we have. Pal, PJ, Reyes, Tomasek, I mean, you guys are amazing. They're doing amazing things here working with our youth. And, I've been working with them also. We're starting a lowrider bicycle program. And there's another surprise here in the works that you guys are going to find out pretty soon, because we have some competition also with the Olathe Police Department. So, things are happening right now, but we want to thank you for your time. And if anybody, please, any police officer out there, if you pull me over, I can sign any warning that you give me. I don't want tickets.
Here we go.
Warnings
He wants to go with that nepotism, despotism.
You got to take advantage of the opportunity.
And all the isms. Give him a ticket, put him in jail. Put him in the basement, as a matter of fact. Now, Chief, before we go, is any comment, anything that you want to express, advice to our community, to our youth, or whatever other comment, anything that you want to say before we depart?
If you want to send a message to people that want to apply to the police department, but they hesitate for whatever reason, please, this is your time. This is all yours.
Yeah, we're always looking for. First of all, we're looking for good people, regardless of gender, race, religion. We're looking for good people. That's the first criteria. And I think it's, as I always say, it's always time. It's your turn to make a difference. Quit letting everyone make a difference in your community. Step up and join the department. And to the community, we're your police department. We're here to serve you. And, you know, block out the noise and really connect with your police department, because we can do great things and we're going to do great things. And that's why I'm here. I'm back home. This is important to me. This is my community. This is where I was born, KU Medical Center. I was born here in KCK, and this is home, and we can do great things together if we work with each other.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Wow,
thank you. Thank
that's
you.
awesome. Great advice.
Thank you.
Thank you
So-
so much. Thank you so much. Just keep following us. We're putting all these great videos out there with some of the leaders of our community. We're just trying to educate the whole entire community. And education begins by you, by searching, asking questions. Okay, it's right there. These are the facts, or the apparent facts. These are no rumors. This is not hearsay. It's coming straight from the leader of our law enforcement agency in Kansas City, Kansas. Mr. C?
Yes, sir. Remember, you're not alone, okay? Look forward, don't look back. It takes a village. We are that village. You are that village. Till next time, thank you.
Thank you so much.